Damn it. There is the sound there now, Joe. Let me know if the sound's there now, because I think I just had it on mute. Ah, fantastic. Thank you, Joe. You're the savior of today. Thank you very much. So, hey, Dick Flinghammer, I love that name. From Florida, loud and clear. Thank you very much, Joe. It's not too loud, is it? I hope not, because I don't really know how to fix that on the hop. So, right in on the wall with me, Jennifer Roberts, and I want to just talk about victimhood and the importance that we. Hiya, Chad. Hey, brother. Oh, thank you, Joe. It's been great. Thank you for being here so quick, because I do panic about the sound. So, the victimhood and the dangers of victimhood and the way that it is impacting on what we are seeing and going through today, and what we are it's in the works for the powers that be to create even more dividends for themselves out of using victimhood. So I'll get the screen up that I want to share. Let's see here. Okay. So we've got here, we'll share the screen. So we've got here the big V for victimhood. Or you could also say the V for Vendetta, that movie that has a lot of truth bombs in it. So we've got the V for victimhood here, and it's up in lights. I put it up in lights because they have deliberately given power to being a victim and staying in victimhood. And so being victimized is very real. Please, when you're listening to this, do not think for one moment, I do not know what it's like to be a true victim of crime and abuse, a long-term systematic abuse. I know what it is to be victimized. That is very real. And so I'm not taking away from the impact that it has. I'm just trying to get to the seed of where it came in and why it's so important that we fix this. And so being hurt by the actions of others, of course, is very real. And I'm not taken away from that in anything that I go on to say further in this video. The weaponization of victimhood is very real, however, and that's what I've just been talking about, is that they have given a lot of space to people staying in victimhood, setting up help groups that do help but never move past getting out of the victimhood mentality in its totality. And so it is alive and well, the weaponization of victimhood. And so we go on that there's a small window within being victimized to process what has occurred, for the pain to be felt, considered, and transmuted. And using this time to understand what your role is and where you can take your power back. And so I speak to this in that, for instance, I went through a very long-term relationship that was very systematically abusive on many different layers, the physical, mental, and emotional. And when I came out of that, or I was working to get out of that, there were many people around me saying, "Oh, poor Jenny, how could anybody hurt little Jenny?" Terms like that. And although that was coming from a really kind and beautiful and compassionate place, I got a bit cross with it, because that was my window of consideration of where my role had been to put myself across as poor little Jenny, because that's not the real me. I can stand up to a giant, and I have done, in very dangerous situations, and have done. and have been given accolade from it, not for any reason other than, you know, just to state a point that, you know, this is the real me. I can stand up to a giant to defend another and get a commendation from the police for it. So this poor little Jenny term, and how could anybody hurt Jenny? It was where it was coming from a very kind place. It triggered me into an anger, which was good. This was my window of consideration to say, this doesn't represent me. How is this me now in people's eyes? The perception of me is a victim. And I've never been a victim of anything, whether it's my own ailments I was born with, or whether it's bullies around. I'll work my way through it, and I'll get to the top no matter what. But within this, I'd fallen into this space, and I had to consider why. And while people were trying to be kind, but they were labeling me as that, they were reinforcing the fact that this is me. This is who I am. I'm a victim. Poor little Jenny. No. And so I got angry with that and started to transmute and consider that pain. And I had to say to my loved ones, friends and family alike, to say, please don't say that. I'm a part of this process that I've been through. There's something within me, some things within me that I need to understand and consider what my role was in attracting this kind of behavior, and more so what my role was in continually accepting this kind of behavior. It was at this point that I could then look at the fact that my emotional wounds from childhood, even soul wounds that I seemed to come in with, energetically resonated with an abusive, physically abusive, narcissistic personality. And so there was an energy feedback. I entered into an energy contract, maybe not being quite as au fait with the contract that I was entering into, fair enough. But there were definite times when I started to consider my role, many times, of real sadness, of being alone in a corner, and knowing that what was going on was wrong, knowing what was going on had to stop. But then inevitably, for a number of years, re-entering into that contract. Yes, it might have been with lies or kind words or kind actions to show apologies, but there was something within me that did know that it didn't mean shit. It was a ploy. And so I had to work through that, but I could not work through that while I was allowing others to perceive me as a victim, while I was allowing myself to be perceived as a victim. And worse still, many people consider themselves and perceive themselves to be a victim for too long. And so this window is small, but it's integral. It's a really key point to get in your power back. And so, however, we have been encouraged to remain in victimhood, which is what I was saying. And many people do it around us out of kindness, because they want, it's the only way they know to show that compassion. It is easy to take this bait, as there is a surface level there's surface level bonuses to being a victim, i.e., while anyone deserves compassion, empathy, and love when they have been hurt, systems have been built to use this drive for compassion, etc., to allow shadows to hide in groups of victims. And so people are encouraged to stay in their victimhood. Now, before I go on to the end of that paragraph there, what I want to say is, in our individual lives, there's bonuses to being a victim. And coming from a medical family, a lot of nurses and family in particular, and me having to have a lot of operations. So coming from a nursing standpoint in my training, and you could perceive a victim of how you're born standpoint as to the operations that I would have. One of the wise words of one of my aunties as a nurse was that, you know, you tell people to stay in their nightdress, in the nightie, in their pajamas, for a time, because it gives you that mental note to take it easy. And it also gives others that mental note that, oh, they're out of action. I can't be putting anything on them right now. They need to relax physically, because their body has been through the mill, kind of thing, or they're poorly. But there's also a time in the nursing profession that you encourage people to be getting up out of bed. You need to get that blood pumping. You don't want blood clots. You need to get them getting used to working through a level of pain to start a normal life again, i.e. getting dressed, and taking the time to do so. And that starts to bring you out mentally of the poorly position, the victim position, and physically it starts to bring you out. And also it builds that expectation of others, so you start to level up again to where you were before the operation, hopefully, or whatever it is, the poorly stint, because the other people start to forget a little bit about what you've been through and start to put things on you a little bit more, i.e. roles within the family unit, etc. And so there's a key time to be in recovery, and that is like the window of victimhood, where it is key for you to start to process things and level up through that processing of things. And so, but because of the systems of victimhood that have been built, there are many people who enjoy being a victim. They enjoy being in that space where others won't put on them. And because maybe they have wounds, maybe that within them, they're not strong enough to say, no, I'm not doing that. I've got my own stuff to do. It's easier for them to remain in that poorly looking state, in that out of action state, in their pajamas or in the nightie, if that makes sense. I can't see the chat right now, so I'll go to the chat after this. But these systems, therefore, then have been built because they realize there's money at the core of it. There is money in victims. All of these charities that can be set up, for groups, Alcoholic Anonymous kinds of things, which are great for that key window. But then they're encouraged to go back and back and back, years and years and years later, sometimes, to repeat that same story, to repeat their same guilts and stuff, so that they're continuing that into their present day, rather than transmuting through it and leveling up through it. And there is money in that. There is money laundering schemes for the powers that be within that, as far as them saying they're putting money towards mental health, etc. But they never do. You never see the results of that. But they've taken the money nevertheless. There is lots of pharmaceutical monies in victimhood, antidepressant tablets, clinics, depression clinics, if that's the right term. I don't know what you would call them around the world, but those kinds of systems that have been built. And so there is a lot of encouragement to be from the outside forces, not just from others around you, but systematically, because they want you in that space. Now, from a money point of view, it makes sense for them to do that, but it also makes sense for them to do that from a eugenicist, psychopathic power of the world, wanting destruction of lesser than them in their perception people. So it makes sense for them to do this also. Why? Because we're much easier to corral, we're much easier to be triggered against one another, to be divided if we feel we've been victimized, and then they can repackage and relabel that victimization into the race card. And so they have people divided by skin color, each side thinking they've been victimized one way or the other by the other side, when actually the head of the snake is the people that are encouraging that victimhood, actually taking physical actions to create that victimhood, i.e. building up parts of city centres that are very affluent, and then building up parts of city centres that are very very much poor and poorer, and so and also building up governments that widely represent a section of the community, i.e. with skin colour in powers that be, and having real disparaging numbers regarding the sort of equal representation of what people physically look like in the so-called powers that be, all creates this victimhood mentality. And when they've got those people in that, you've seen it over the last year or so, they can trigger riots real easy, because these victims' wounds are there. They're deep-seated, they're generational now. And so they're really good tools for them to switch and key in certain codes and labels to trigger certain sections of the community into their active victimhood. And so it's up to us as individuals to do the work to heal from wounds and experiences, and to not accept the V label. It's funny, isn't it, that I wrote that a while ago, and I'm trying to go through my work, things that I wanted to share and get it out there while I haven't got Theodore for today. But the V, we know what we're talking about when I say V in present day, to not accept it, to not consent to be a part of that, to not be changed by something outside of yourself. And that would go with the victim label too for the V. But it would also in duality go for victorious. It would also in duality go for valor. And so rather than victimization. And where we're looking at these generational wounds that for the most part have been manufactured and tweaked and molded for many generations, we can look out to the wider world and think, well, how do we stop this? How do we heal this? There is too much for any one of us to heal these wounds on the outside in the collective. So the power is always within. So where can we start to make a change to this? Rather than looking to the outside and looking at all of these generational wounds and these sections of society that are victims one way or the other, we can't really, you can get overwhelmed. You can then turn into a victim feeling like there's nothing you can do. And for a great part, there isn't, until you start on the inside. And the more people that do this, the less people in the collective will be able to be corralled and triggered into a side-on-side victimhood mentality. And so to draw strength from the healing process and have the ability to end the repeating loop in our lives, to not be defined by the abuse. And so this, again, going back to one of my experiences where I went to that window of opportunity, where I got triggered into necessary anger, righteous anger, by the new perception of me, when I saw myself through the lens of others and saw that they were looking at me as poor little Jenny, the victim, the bruised up, battered up, lost money victim. This was my defining moment to say, that does not resonate with me at all. That does not resonate with any of my actions outside of this relationship in my life. I have never, ever, whether it's from the physical ailments I came into this world with, relationships, or fighting to build business. You guys know I'm here most days. I do not give up. And so to me, it was that, all right, I need to change that perception of me. Now, I can't change that perception of me by going to those loved ones that were out of compassion saying, oh, poor little Jenny. I couldn't do that, because over this long period of this particular experience, I'd promised many times that was it, no more. I'm not entering into that. I'm not going to be used like that again. I'm not going to believe those lies again. Bang, because I hadn't done certain inner workings, I went back into it. So again, I realized during that processing window, I couldn't just say to people. So the last time that I actually got out was the one time that I did not say to anybody, that's the last time anybody will do that to me. I kept that quiet. because I didn't want to then reinforce me being a victim by the words that they'd already heard and that I'd already failed on, so to speak, because I'd already entered into that loop of victimhood again by going back into the process of that relationship. And so I took my power back in that way of, this is my defining moment, and people will just see when they see that a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line, I have not repeated, I have not gone backwards into that loop of systematic abuse. And so this is where I started to not be defined by the abuse, so much so that I did not feel the need that I had to prove myself, because all of the other times there was something within me knew I wasn't ready to get out. And so all of the other times when I was saying to people, that's it, that's the last time, there was something within me, quiet voice saying it's not. And so, but I felt the need to try and fix the perception of me in the eyes, the lenses of others, the way that they were looking at me. This time I got to the point where I didn't care if they believed me or not. Therefore, I wouldn't even say anything at all. I'm just going to do it. And so this is where this defining moment came. We have been indoctrinated to be fearful of speaking out about mass manufactured victimhood. There have even been laws passed to stop us from doing so. Now, you all know what I'm talking about there. And this is where I want to show the impact of, I'll go on and then I'll talk. The V label has been a great weapon for and protector of those that actually on many occasions instigated and caused the abuse to happen. The acceptance of the V label in our individual lives has helped to create the space for those that wish to cause harm to be detrimental and hugely effective while being protected. They find the victory in the victims they often have created. People are frightened to mention it, but. And this is where they've literally built up systems. So this shows you how terrifying it must be for them for people to get out of victimhood. It shows that it must be absolutely terrifying for them, so much so that they'll make laws to stop you from speaking out about manufactured victimhood. Now, when I'm speaking about manufactured victimhood, I'm talking about the fact that like myself, there is real victimization of those that has been tragic, disgusting, and makes my blood boil. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying they create the space, they do the actions to create big sections of society to be victims. And for the most part, that's where they hide the most. So if you take the first letter of my name, being J, now there are laws, and I can't speak out too much in the context that I'm speaking out on this platform and many others, because there have actually been physical laws set up to that don't represent what I'm saying at all, but could get me on that. And so this is where the danger is of us as individuals accepting the victim label, because when we do, we harness those outside forces, those so-called powers that be, to create storylines, narratives, and sections that they can actually then hide in. So in your individual relationship, say you, like me, had been with a psychopathic, narcissistic, abusive partner. If you've done that, then there is you'll know the process, that when the begging starts and the promises start and all of that, they'll mirror what they have done to you. So they, in your eyes, will look like the victim that you are so close to, intimately. And so that's how you let them back in. This is where we see on the greater stage, because people were too complacent at any given point in history, and allowed themselves to be labeled as something, because there's certain powers that come with that, in that you can get away with a lot more at any given point in history, depending on which victims the so-called powers that be are backing. You look at the likes of BLM, you know, a movement that was started to create good change, infiltrated then, and we have the perpetrators hiding within the victims of that section of society. And you see the damage that can be caused. You look to World War II and you look at what is happening now, and you see that they are harnessing victimhood. And it is so widespread. It is so infectious, because it gives us a space also to be able to cast judgment on others, even judging each other for our own skin color that we're born with, that we have no control over. And so this is where we cannot go out to the outside world and fix this. They've done a good job. It's become infectious. There's many beings floating around with tendrils going through society on each and every side, that is enjoying the energetic feedback that these victims give, that this victimhood gives back. So where it's overwhelming and we can't fix that on the worldwide stage, what we do is go within. Because for each and every one of us to do this, we have a knock-on effect. Energetically, it goes far and wide outside of our own body. The effect of us taking back our power from victimhood into valor and victory. People around us witness that, and it has a huge impact on them energetically. And then again, they do that process and it goes on and on and on. And so where it's overwhelming, always go within and always see where you can get your power back. And do not accept anything, even out of compassion, that belittles your power, that degrades your power, that limits your power, that gives a box, a lid to your power. As soon as that's happening, you know that you have to remove yourself from that situation. If you're not brave enough to speak out and get to that point that I got into in my window, of where I said, I love you, but please don't say that. Please don't ever say that again. Don't ever say, poor little Jenny. Don't ever say, how could anybody do that to her, to me? Again, I do not need to hear that in this process. I do not want to hear that ever again. And thankfully, the people I had around me at that time totally got that. If you don't have people around you that can totally get that, then be brave enough to remove yourself from that situation in order to process your window from victory to valor, from victimhood to victory. And this is how we do it. So I'm going to go to the chat and see what you guys have been saying, and because I love being able to do this, going live, because this is just want to say I've repeated the hotkey process and I'm live, and I'm supposedly going out on all the different platforms, so we'll see. I don't know if I am. It might just be YouTube, and in that case that might be my fault. I don't know. So we've got Joe, Chad, Thomas. Hi, Thomas. Peter, my brother, my lyrical brother. I don't know why you're not getting notifications, Peter, but this was, I'll probably be going live on and off today because I'm going to get as much out. All of the notes that have been taken everywhere, I'm going to get as much out while Theodore's having fun with my mum. Who else? Michael, my brother and sister. Another day in paradise. Top of the morning, everyone, she says. He says. They say. Peter, I have been meditating, thinking about the subject. This subject this weekend. Wow, synchronistic. Not being a victim. Not being the legal fiction created by my birth. Wow. Finding me, the eternal, internal, and not being external. Wow, Peter, that is so beautiful and so deep. I made a hash of it reading it out. I'm sorry, I must get glasses again. But the perfect. The power in that statement is immense, and it's a dream and wish for everybody to find that power. We certainly wouldn't be seeing what we're seeing now today if others could do what you have just stated. So high five, brother. David Berry, Soul Tribe Productions, my brother. Hey, you. Who else? Got Dick. Good day. Good day. Paul from Newcastle, my brother. Hi to you. I'm just seeing if anybody else has a statement about what we were talking about. Jeannie and Michael, I'm off to the duck yard. That is the most awesome statement of today too. Enjoy the ducks. Whack. Whack, whack. David Berry. Poor me complex, keeping yourself down with your own perceived thoughts. Reprogram yourself. I am good enough. Yeah. I am me. I am everything. Valiant Theodore. Yeah, he is Valiant Theodore. I don't think that boy has ever been a victim, and I don't think he ever will be. He's I've got no worries there, Thomas. You're quite right. He's all about victor and valor. A little Viking. Don't forget to give Jenny a big thumbs up for her work. Thank you, my brother David Berry. Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you all so much. Yeah. Gaza. Hi, Gaza. 9/11. I did a video with the most awesome guy the other day, and they were trying to make him a victim because he was speaking out in valor, and he's just working his way through it, working his way to victory, and showing them up for what they've done. And this is the strength that they have when we accept victimhood in our own individual lives. This is the strength of it. This is how it expands. It expands to, yes, Peter, Adam, Awakened Adam. Go and check him out. He's going to be starting off his YouTube channel. I'm going to be encouraging him to do so, but he's got lots in the works. Go on Instagram if you look for Awakened Adam. He's on there, and he's been on various different podcasts, and I'll be getting him back on here. And I think David Berry, I was wanting to get him on with you and Milky Way Soul Tribe too, to get his message out there, and because within his physical awakening, due to him being a part of, involved with the events of 9/11 and being at the Pentagon, he put out a vid last week. Oh, good, Peter. Keep on him. Keep telling him. Another one, brother, because he's got such a fabulous message. But in his physical awakening, because of the physical impact, it delved into his dark night of the soul, so to speak, which is what I've just spoken about with me. It delves you into that darkness, that blackness where you can process. And there are people that pull themselves up into such victory. And he's doing that spiritually now. I mean, that he's got a lot to share spiritually because of the effects of 9/11. But what I was saying, sorry, he's saying it was 9/11 Melbourne time. Well, how synchronistic is that? Because it absolutely speaks to what I was speaking about, in that the impact of us allowing ourselves to be victims in our own individual lives gives them the power to do things as big as and as horrible and impactful as 9/11. It really does. Really, really does. And he speaks about that. So, hi, Deb Denny. Good day to you. Good day to you. forgiveness is a key step to overcoming victimhood mentality. Yeah, Deb, the same name as my mum. She's Deborah, but she gets Deb at work. Yes, and I think spiritually, esoterically, at the upper levels of understanding is that we don't actually have the right nor space to forgive others. It always comes back to self. It comes back to, for instance, a really easy way to say what I'm saying is that somebody who I love, his car got ransacked the other day. And the most thing he got cross with and angry with was the fact that he hadn't locked the car, that he'd forgotten to lock the car, and he was angry with himself. And that was sort of being manifested in his way to vent about his anger of somebody going through his personal things. You know, it's a violation. It feels horrible. And I'd said, you need to forgive yourself for that. And the moment I said, it happens. You were a bit out of radar when you pressed the key, so it didn't zap the locks down. You know, it happens. Forgive yourself for that, because even though they stole from him, he has no right to forgive them esoterically. They would have to do, because if he does that, they can do that with that whatever they will. They could then go and come back and hurt him again by doing it again, which if you've given forgiveness to somebody and they go and do it again, which was happening in my loop of abuse, then it hurts you even more. You go down the ladder even more so. So whatever's happening for forgiveness for self, though, that's where the victory is. Because if you forgive yourself for being a part of whatever process that hurt you, that's where you stand in victory and valor. And it's for others to either change their actions or not. But you doing that with you actually gives off a very different demeanor and lessens the chance of somebody coming back and doing the same thing to you again. So Soul Tribe Productions, forgiveness is key. Yes, don't harbor ill will. You only hurt yourself, not the other person. Absolutely. And that's where we could go to David Berry, that it's the forgiveness of self within whatever process. If you don't, you see, and you hold on to that, it becomes stagnant water kills, it becomes poison. So it eats away at you, and so it harms you and nobody else. But therefore it does harm those around you because of the way that you're at a lower frequency. Paul from Newcastle got a video on ducks at Bladen Pond. I don't know if I got you on Facebook, Paul. I did a poll because it was Paul. He says Paul from Newcastle on Facebook, and it's not the same Paul. So I made a fool of myself one of the days, messaging him as if it was you to say hi. So add me on there if you're on there. Paul from Newcastle got signs of 9/11 4 days before it happened. Did you? I think a lot of people were keyed into that the feeling of something coming, you know, the energetic knowing of something coming. And I think we're in that space again, aren't we? As we approach these months going forward, we can feel the next big event, which I need to do a video to talk about too. Peter, what is forgiveness? Forgive yourself means to actually feel what you have done for the dark winter, absolutely, that the dark night of the soul. Know it was you, and to be finally at peace with it. And it will never cause harm again. Forgiveness of self. Deb, forgiveness goes both ways. It's for self primarily. You're so right, Deb. Absolutely. Regine, hi. Regine Huddleston. Good day to you. You're sewing bandanas. Oh, I love my bandanas, Regine. I love my bandanas. David, exactly, Jenny. Look at the rice thought experiment. Absolutely. You speak positive to one and negative to another. You're going to see one absolutely perfectly preserved, edible. You see another become all distorted, dark and poisonous and moldy, for sure. Not on Facebook, only YouTube. I get you. Okay, so that's how I didn't find you. But there is a poll from Newcastle on Facebook that I added. And I was like, hey, brother. Hi, Regine. I found an online source to do a lot of merch. Oh, David Berry, hook me up with the information of that, please. I've been working on how to get the stuff that I make out there. Coyote Prophet, hey, good morning, good day to you, good rising and favor to you as you wish it to everybody else. So I love you all, and I appreciate you all. What was I going to say regarding? There was something somebody said that I thought, there's a video on that too. But I'll remember it. So I'm going to be back on. I'm going to go for another coffee. I'm going to fill this thing up and have another coffee and get rolling again because Theodore's at my mum's. You know, he's adorable, but he's a busy boy. You know, he is in and out of here, so and nobody minds him. But sometimes I go off track and forget what I'm saying as he comes in asking for one thing or another, and so I'm going to get as much done as I can. So I'll see you all real soon. Dick food storage shelf life could be positively impacted by proper labeling. Dick, you awesome dude. That is good. There's a video in that. Because the way that they label food is so sneaky. Instead of putting just the name of something, because there's so many chemicals, they use like the codes or names that nobody can pronounce, never mind know what they are. And so, and the way that they label them, the wording, the logo, wow, energetically, absolutely will impact the food that they hold. Oh my goodness. Dick, you awesome dude. What are you saying there? I'm likely the only man in the world who has never tasted coffee. You know what? I think I'm a bit addicted to coffee, and I'm trying to work through that. Because I would have never said I've got an addictive personality, but I'd stopped smoking for the longest time. I started again during that relationship, funny enough. And I haven't been able to ditch it totally. I'm trying again with this thing here to try and stop the craving. And so there's some things within me that I'm looking at as to, okay, what's going on there? Some of it very much so can be attachments even of loved ones. My granddad's very close to me and would never wish me any harm, but he smoked every day for his life since he was like 7 years old. And he lived to 70 something. And so I realized that there's something in that too, you know, those connections. And coffee was another one. So I drink tea like crazy. Tea is better for you though, very much so. I do incorporate tea, and I'm incorporating more of my own dandelion tea. I'm making dandelion root tea at the minute, and that's going well. And so I'm getting used to the flavor of that too. And that's obviously a lot healthier. It's given me goodness rather than, coffee has you up and down in your system, doesn't it, with peaks and troughs. So But it looks like I'm only going live over YouTube, so I maybe didn't do as good a job as last time of actually getting live because I went over different platforms. So I'm going to have a look at that, have a coffee, look at my notes, see which one's next, and get back to you all. I love and appreciate you all. I would love today to, I'm manifesting to get the subscribers up there so I can be just going live on my phone, because you've got to have over 1,000 subscribers to do that with YouTube in particular. I might try Restream on my phone, though. I might be able to get around their silly rules if I go through Restream on my phone. We'll see. But anyway, other than that, it would be great for business also, and I appreciate you all helping me do that, your family, and I love you for it. But please, I don't ask too many times, but please do make a point of sharing today, and I'll try and set up some scheduled links because that really does help. And check out the other socials in the description box because I'm getting myself on more platforms to help me in business, but also help get the message across and help others, which is ultimately what I want to do. So I might change my hair though, because I'm not happy with my hair today. Okay, love you all, appreciate you all, see you soon. Oh, David, you awesome dude, David Berry. And anybody, I know there's not very many people in the chat, and I think everybody in the chat is actually already brothers and sisters. You are here anyway, but yes, please, Dick, that would be great if people liked it too. It does help, it really does, especially now. And so if anybody isn't subscribed to one another, go out and check out David Berry at YouTube, Soul 75 Soul Tribe Productions, because they're awesome. And he's not on here, I don't think, but Milky Way Soul Tribe is another one. And Nina the Mystic, she's a sister, and she's not on here in this chat, but you'll find her at Nina the Mystic. And of course, Wayne Steiger, the awesome professor of knowledge himself. All right, I'll let you go. Love you all. Mwah.